The world of free agency in wrestling has created some exciting bidding wars between WWE and AEW over the years, with the two companies battling for the signatures of different wrestlers, and after all these years, it's made me think, who won? So today I thought I'd go through every wrestler I could think of who was in the middle of a bidding war between WWE and AEW. So we're clear though, we're only talking about people who were free agents who both companies put in offers for. So people like Giulia, Daniel Garcia, Penta, and obviously MJF don't count, as either only one company made an actual on-the-record offer and/or they weren't a free agent at the time. Anyway, that's everything, so like the video and let's get into it. The first person I remember AEW and WWE battling it out for was Kenny Omega, and that was just after AEW formed and before AEW had even held a show. Contrary to popular belief, Kenny Omega was not a founding EVP of AEW, those were Cody and the Young Bucks. AEW was of course officially announced and formed in January 2019, and it's at the end of January 2019 when Kenny Omega's New Japan contract expired and when AEW and WWE would enter a bidding war to get his signature, with both companies presenting offers to Kenny Omega, but I think AEW being the ones to get him was fairly predictable though, and the obvious destination. But yeah, once upon a time there was a chance of Kenny Omega going to WWE and never stepping foot in AEW ever. There is an alternative timeline out there where that happened, but AEW should be very thankful he didn't choose WWE. He's been a tag champion, a former world champion, and is one of the best wrestlers ever, so AEW should be very grateful they have him. Jay White finished up with New Japan Pro Wrestling in February 2023, and immediately every wrestling fan knew that this guy was going to be a hot commodity in the free market agency, with of course both WWE and AEW showing interest and holding talks with Jay White. And despite reports that WWE were confident they could land Jay White, it came out that talks had broken down, even with WWE apparently having creative plans for him lined up already, and Triple H and Regal themselves being very interested. He of course signed for AEW and spawned in the company in April 2023, and his run has been He's a former trios champion, but that's really kinda it. Overall, he hasn't been booked or presented as a star at all, and he even lost to Billy fucking Gunn in a singles match just last year. It's only now where they're finally starting to give him somewhat of a singles push. Towards the end of 2023, the future of Will Ospreay's career became a big discussion point as he was soon finishing up with New Japan Pro Wrestling. WWE and AEW were both heavily interested in him, and there was even interest from TNA, who reportedly offered him a 7-figure deal. However, Ospreay of course went with AEW, who according to him had a way better offer than WWE. And hey, WWE seemingly weren't happy about this decision at the time. Do you remember that whole running from the grind drama, that comment that Triple H made about Will Ospreay? His run in AEW has been very good so far though, and AEW are very clearly intent on getting the most out of this investment, and I can't really say that for the next person though. Okada is arguably one of the greatest wrestlers in the world, and when he finished up with New Japan, where he has been a staple of for years, there was undoubtedly always going to be a huge bidding war between WWE and AEW for him. That's of course exactly what happened, but as we know for Okada, like with everyone so far on this list, he chose AEW, with AEW reportedly offering him a huge money deal with rumored numbers like $4 million a year floating around. background. Okada is obviously a fantastic wrestler. He has had some good matches so far in AEW. However, for the investment that was made in him, I haven't been massively blown away by Okada yet in AEW. I'm not writing him off whatsoever. I know how good Okada can be. I just feel like I haven't seen that New Japan Okada yet in AEW. I'd like to see more from him and AEW themselves in terms of the booking of him. It feels like he hasn't even had a real singles feud yet. What more can I say about Mercedes Moné that I or anyone else hasn't said already? The former Sasha Banks left WWE on her own accord in 2022 and went off to work in Japan. After her appearance at AEW All in 2023 though, it seemed as though that would be her next destination. However, talks with AEW cooled down as WWE also got in the mix and held talks themselves with Moné, but those talks would break down as both parties were far apart in terms of the contract, and ultimately her signature would end up on an AEW contract in a big Moné deal. Her AEW run in ring-wise has been great. She's had so many banger matches and is obviously a quadruple champion right now. The only thing missing from her run so far is being in constant storylines and story progression, and her promo work could definitely improve as well. Many people try to say she's the worst AEW signing ever, which I heavily disagree with. I've always said that, and it's just simply not true, because the real worst AEW signing is her former muscle, Camille. I've made a video on Camille in AEW recently, so I won't yap for too long. Before AEW, Camille was in NWA, where she held the NWA Women's World title for multiple years. And upon leaving the NWA at the start of 2024, a bidding war would ensue between WWE and AEW to get her on their rosters, with it ultimately being reported in the end in April that AEW had signed her 2 months prior in February. As for Camille's run in AEW though, I said it in my video about it already, so go watch that, but she's been sat on the shelf for most of her run now, as she's been signed for a year and spent maybe 3 or 4 months on TV at most. In hindsight, I kinda think she probably would have been better off if she went to WWE, not gonna lie. We finally get to a WWE pickup, and this is one that may have the craziest circumstances surrounding it. Stephanie Vaquer before WWE was a standout women's wrestler from the Mexican promotion CMLL, and she started making appearances for AEW in mid-2024 during the build-up to Forbidden Door, where she faced Mercedes Moné to unify the TBS and New Japan Strong Women's Championships. Mercedes Moné won this match, but it was a great match and exposed Stephanie Vaquer to American audiences and to WWE. Stephanie wasn't tied down with AEW and was only making those appearances in conjunction with CMLL and Forbidden Door, and by all accounts AEW were planning on picking up Stephanie Vaquer, but WWE would then swoop in and quickly made a deal with Vaquer and signed her to the company right out of AEW's hands, and it just happened so quick. And Vaquer is in NXT nowadays and on her way to potentially winning a singles title, which is great, and it's gotta be one of the craziest devious licks I've ever seen. Apparently AEW put in protections following this whole ordeal to make sure this can never happen again. A bit of a random entry here in the WWE AEW bidding war. I actually had no idea that WWE had showed interest in picking up Dynamite Kid Jr. for their roster. Yeah, apparently after his first AEW appearance and match with Dax Harwood on the May 11th, 2024 episode of Collision, he was offered a contract by AEW on the spot, and as well on the following day, there was contract and interest from WWE as well, who wanted to pick him up too. Tommy Billington obviously chose AEW, and I've not really seen much Tommy Billington in AEW or Ring of Honor since signing though. He's still young, so I won't write him off, but I'm confused why we've not really seen him at all since he signed the contract. Finally, we've got the Motor City Machine Guns, who have always been one of my favorite tag teams of all time and are one of the most decorated tag teams of all time, and they always somehow managed to stay away from WWE, and when AEW came around, I thought it would remain that way and that surely they'd be on the top of the signings list for AEW and end up in AEW some way or the other. They would make a couple of appearances for the company in 2022, but were never tied down and no contract terms were made. But about 9 months ago, in the summer of 2024, it came out that AEW were reportedly finalizing deals with the Motor City Machine Guns. Before it then went kinda silent for a bit, and certain pay-per-views and events went by that many thought the Machine Guns would be debuting on, and they didn't. And then it came out that the Guns were actually gonna be WWE bound instead. Yeah, that's exactly what happened, as once again WWE swooped in and made this deal happen so quick, as they gave Shelley and Saban a better offer, and now the Motor City Machine Guns are on their roster. They've been there for a couple of months and even won the tag titles on their very first day in the company, and I think this was a huge fumble from AEW, I can't lie. Motor City Machine Guns really were the best tag team out there for years, not signed by either company, and not only did AEW use the Guns before, but they were meant to be the tag team wrestling promotion, and both those things make it just such a bad fumble from AEW's part, because I just can't stress enough how Shelley and Saban surely were the perfect guys for AEW. When AEW formed in 2019, I remember building my fantasy roster for the company, and Motor City Machine Guns were the first damn tag team in that company for me. But hey, that's wrestling for ya. So yeah, overall, who won the bidding war? It's quite funny that I've made it this far in the video and you're noticing now that, oh wait, WWE only has 2 entrants and 3 wrestlers on this list compared to AEW who has 7 wrestlers on this list. And overall, if I had to say, I'd think AEW overall has better people, better signings. Obviously, like I said, a big part of that is due to the fact they managed to pick them up and they picked up more than WWE did. However, in terms of value for money and in terms of how they've all been booked overall, I would say that WWE probably won the bidding war. The only 2 entries on this list for WWE are Stephanie Vaquer and Motor City Machine Guns, and I don't have any problems really with how WWE has booked them. Whereas for AEW, they have a few people from that free agency bidding war who just really aren't doing that much in the company right now. I'm talking about Camille and Jay White and Tommy Billington, and even Okada for me hasn't hit the mark so far. So overall, as good as the people are that AEW signed, I don't deny their talent. They are all great wrestlers. I don't think AEW has managed them and booked them very well, and WWE have done a lot better in that aspect and also got a lot better for their money's worth. So yeah, overall, I would say that WWE won the bidding war. And yeah, I'm probably going to get some angry comments for that statement, but oh well. And speaking of comments, leave one down below with your thoughts on the AEW and WWE bidding wars that there have been for the numerous and various free agents over the years, and who you think won. Sound off in the comments, I want to hear it. And leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and subscribe with those notifications on so you never miss a video. I'll see you all in the next video, goodbye, and keep on rolling.